Hey guys, Thomas the Silly Genie here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Scream 6. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my collab channel, or my Discord server, where you can share your collab material. I should fix that. And shilling will be reminded at the end of the review. With all that out of the way, let's get into Scream 6. So obviously, I've seen the trailers for Scream 6. And I did also review Scream 5 as a part of my system that I've gotten into. And from Scream 5 to Scream 6 was quite the interesting jump, let's say. For those unfamiliar with the Scream franchise, as this is going to be known to be relevant quite obviously throughout the movie, is quite a unique one in that it is a meta thriller, meaning that it obviously, even from the inception of the first Scream, calls out other movies and points out the rules, and within the context, the people then also simultaneously break said rules and obviously get killed by the killer. To show how absurd some other horror movies tend to typically be. And that was sort of the whole point of the first Scream movie. And obviously, at this point, it is quite obvious to see that Scream has blown up, or resurfaced from Scream 5. And when I reviewed that movie, I definitely had my issues with it. I felt as if some of the stylings of the characters weren't as strong as I would have liked. I think that, from what I can recall, the meta of the movie, since that is a part of the movie at this point, and has been since the inception of Scream, what felt more like a poke rather than what Scream being a punch was. Scream never really, to me, was a movie that would pull its punches, to say they would obviously call out other movies very directly, and it felt like, at least from what I can recall from Scream 5, again, it felt like more of a poke than a punch. But I will say, Scream 6 absolutely fixes this in the most bizarre way I think I've ever seen a horror movie do, and we'll get into that. But man, does this movie in the meta sense punch. Absolute punch. Right in the gut. So let's get right into it with the actual happenings, as I try to be as objective as I conceivably can be, and let's get into it. So the movie begins with a little call between two individuals, Laurie, and an individual calling himself Reggie over the phone. She's currently at the bar, and he's claiming to be looking for her over the phone. So she heads outside to look where the store is, and he's currently, at least over the phone, saying that he's currently looking for her location, but not having any luck. So he tells her to go down this sort of side path, I guess, and we see her get tricked as she's all the way down there already, and the voice turns over to the Scream voice, and we see him come out and kill her. And in a bizarre, quick twist, being the first of many, is that unlike every previous Scream movie, we see the killer take off their costume almost instantly here. So he heads home to his hideout with his buddy, and he's going over, and through their call, he's sort of mocking the classic rules of horror. However, the other individual over the phone starts to use the voice changer to get him to be like, this is getting a little bit weird. You shouldn't be using that on me. And he gets moved over to a certain location, and he is actually stabbed to death by another Scream killer. So this is again a twist in direction right out of the gate. So this guy's name was Jason, and the guy on the phone was Greg. And he goes over, when he was alive, he was going over sort of this project for the movie, because, again, the meta sense is some of the killers that want to start killing is that they want a movie to be made about them in the context of their world. And obviously the whole for the movie aspect gets quite abandoned as he's killed. So we cut back to our previous movie installment character named Tara, the older sister, who is the daughter of one of the previous killers, Billy Loomis. And she's with a psychiatrist who is trying to gather the intel. All the while, this is probably another subversion from what I know about the rest of the movie, but she meets with one of her friends who came out from having sex, I guess, or making out at the very most. All the while, she informs Tara of Sam's location, Sam being the other sister. Oh, sorry, Sam is the one we are following, and she's looking for Tara. I got that flipped, my bad. So, so Sam is the one searching the party to go look for Tara. All the while, Tara is already at the party, pretty deep in the drinks, being pulled aside from some person to go get a little busy on their own. But she gets interrupted by Chad, and Sam also catches up at this point and deals with that and pulls her sister away from this party. So they get in a bit of an argument as Tara is claiming that she just wants to move on from the incident, and Sam is posing as this, saying as to not simply move on to, sort of deal with the trauma of what has happened in the previous movie. However, she gets accused by this one rando on the street that passes them by. But as they back away, we see that Tara, the younger sister, and Chad are in the room together when they are back at their place, and they get kissed blocked by the redhead whose name escapes me, but we'll get to her a lot more throughout the movie. However, we see that Sam is getting her little own action from the neighbor from across the apartment complex. Like, he's one apartment complex over, I mean to say, whose name is Danny. Sam thinks this attention that she's accumulated, being called a killer, or being treated as one, essentially, is making her quote-unquote famous. She says famous, but I'm pretty sure that would be infamous is the more accurate word. So, a little bit of a foible in the writing, I would point out. Again, I think it's a minor issue, but just semantics and grammar and stuff like that is, you can make these little touches, and again, just to tighten up the script even more. Because again, I do think that the movie gets to the big punch eventually. But it's building up to it. Anyway, so the crew is uniting into this one room where they see the news is updating, and they see that the killings are getting back to it, right? So the siblings want to leave, and the father tells them that the father cop tells them that they can't leave. And in fact, they end up getting asked to go to the station instead. After they are updated about how things are being placed, and how some of this is being looked at as this is seemingly to pin Sam as again this killer, this infamous killer. And so, once they're done with their little meeting there, they head out towards the street, but they get called. And so, it's obviously the killer, and they're out in the streets, and Scream proceeds to attack them. This is where we enter the thing you see in the trailer over and over again, where they enter the convenience store, and the shop owner's a little bit confused at first, and they're screaming for help, and he's a little confused up until the point where the Scream guy just enters into the convenience store, and everybody's on edge as the guy shifts over to the Scream killer and warns him before attempting to shoot him, as he wistfully ducks out of the way. Or, I should rather say, this Scream killer moves out of the way, because I'm not sure which one it is. So, spoiler alert early on, there's more than one killer again, which is something that is very custom in most Scream movies, actually. And apparently, this movie even addresses that. I forget which Scream movie it was specifically, but there was one that only had the one killer, apparently. Again, I'm not sure which one that's referring to exactly, but nonetheless, Scream proceeds to kill the owner with said shotgun, because he gets a hold of it eventually. And they end up squirming out the back. So we learn more of the characters of the redhead that I was referring to. Her name is Quinn, by the way. We have a returning characters, aka our legacy characters, which are literally referred to as that at a point in the movie. Kirby Reed and Gale. Gale being the known news reporter from the original series. And apparently published a book about the circumstances around both Sam and Tara, so those two are quite upset with her specifically. All the while all that's going on, the psychiatrist we see has a doorbell being rung, so he gets up and he looks over to who's at the other side, and Scream proceeds to attack this individual and kills him in the process. And once we cut away from that, we cut to our group reuniting, our collective college group. And boy, oh boy, the big punch comes right now as Mindy explains the fucking rules. And I went, yes, you fucking nailed it. You fucking nailed it in comparison to 5. My God, were these rules just absolutely brutal. So she points out that this is no longer a pre-sequel or something or rather of that nature. She literally points out this is a franchise now. So literally calling out the meta in its own. So it's mocking itself, which is something I feel is so severely missing, even from 5 too as well. I feel like when you make a sort of satirical movie of this nature, I feel like a lot of them lose that luster to be able to recognize how to mock your own previous attempts when you did something bad. And my God, does this movie doesn't just go after itself, it fucking slaughters the idea of franchises while also simultaneously being a franchise. So it's not getting itself out of the equation. It's like, yeah, we're fucking aware, because as we go over the rules, so I will state the rules as follows. So rule 1, as she begins to expose them, is that everything must be bigger. And boy, does that one just French kiss to that one. Absolutely. And the immediate point is Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars movies. Like, how do you just hit it so beautifully? Because they mention they mention these characters all in this movie. Like, Luke Skywalker literally gets mentioned in this movie. Like, Jesus, the writing on the meta on here is so fucking just, like, not even the slap, the punch, just, And rule 2, expect the opposite of what you were expecting. AKA subverting expectations. And again, the punch directly to Star Wars and on that one, because subverting expectations was one of the big things they kept even promoting. The directors even were saying is like, we're gonna subvert expectations, and we're so glad we did. They were all so proud of subverting expectations. They literally said that at a point. And my God, was that one just like another just gut punch of like, yeah, you fucking nailed it again. And this one I find really fascinating. Rule number 3, no one is safe. Legacy characters aren't safe, aka making fun of the previous movie, number 5. So I'm so glad that they included this rule, because that rule in my opinion, just makes 5 actually a little bit better than it was, because man, did 5 just not have that oomph. But that rule specifically, it's like, yeah, they called it out. They called themselves out. And you know what? Again, I have to applaud that, because again, I feel like a lot of satirical movies don't have that gumption to do that a lot of the times. And so, Mindy begins to call out each individual as suspicious, as who the potential killers are. She goes down the list of the new guy, Ethan, who's called suspicious for just being the new guy in the group. There is, next is Quinn, who is also essentially that. We have Inika, her love interest. She even says her own love interest is potentially suspicious. As well as a franchise, during each of these kills we have been seeing throughout the movie, a individual mask is dropped. And each mask belongs to the first 3 set up in the movie. Like, the first kill we saw, a mask from Screen 1 was dropped, and the second kill was a nod to Screen 2, and then to Screen 3 is essentially what they're doing here. So, the police officer says that they're going over the 9 killers that they had in total. I think it's 9 that they mention. And he wants, he calls in to have, what's her name? Hold on, I have it. Kirby looked into, which, now considering the updates of what we'll get to get really interesting. So, as this happens, we learn that the Scream mask goes up in sales, which is definitely a sort of a foreboding, like, again, sort of a nod, I guess, to the meta of realism of, like, when a bad thing happens and then, like, you know, when they say, like, a horror thing is, like, based off of it, and then, like, you know, that sort of line of things sort of pick up in sales. I think that's, again, also a point or a nod back to itself in a way, because, again, it's not afraid to do that at this point, which, again, I absolutely applaud that. So, as they're all downstairs, the only one upstairs currently is our little redhead friend, whose name I just mentioned earlier, and I completely neglected to write it again, so... And I completely forgot what her name was already. Not Tara or Sam, not Greg or Jason. I don't know. Anyway, we'll just call her Redhead for the rest of the review, since I keep my notes just betray me at this point. Anyway, we see the neighbor, the boyfriend neighbor, try to warn her specifically, and then try to warn the rest of the group as he sees the Scream killer in the house apartment across the way, getting ready to attack the redhead. We see her get pushed towards the rest of the group, and the Scream killer proceeds to attack, where we see Mindy get stabbed in the gut, but does not quite die here. But the group proceeds to run into a room, and Anika is grabbed in the process of them fleeing, and then she's stabbed in the chest, which is pretty brutal, but not quite immediate death. So the boyfriend neighbor pulls out a ladder and prompts them to climb across from building to building through the ladder. So the majority of them make it through slowly but surely, and Anika is the last among them to cross. But the Scream killer catches up with her, able to get into the room because they blockade it. And the Scream killer proceeds to attempt to tip over the ladder until she's tipped off of the ladder to her death. So Sam begins to blame herself for allowing this to occur once again. And her boyfriend, as she's sort of off to the side when they make their way down this alleyway to off where the police are arriving, he says not to trust anyone at this point, not even him. If that's what she believes to be true, that it could be anybody at this point still, other than her sister, of course, because her sister's currently with her, so it can't conceivably be her. So we see the dad coming out crying, and again, when we learn what we learn, that also comes into interesting aspects of this. But Gail also comes in, and Kirby also simultaneously joins them. So the group is at a pretty massive number scale right now, as Gail proceeds to bring all of them. So it's pretty much their entire crew, with the exception of Anika, I believe, and the redhead currently. Other than that, everyone else is injured, or, only one of them is injured. But what they proceed to find is a Scream shrine. And we see the continuation of Sam's little venture of seeing her little father killer in the mirror, of being able to talk to her, because she's a little bit on the cuckoo side at this point. And we get these little moments where Kirby and Mindy go over which TV series are the best, and they go over several sets of movies, and they just literally set out several examples, there's some horror movies in there, I forget the exact examples, but pretty much just, again, kind of going over the meta and how much these two characters specifically overlap with most of their choices, with one exception, I think, but I think it's Kirby who gives the one exception, but she gives a reason of having a crush on one of the characters or something like that. Anyway, so Gail, around the same time, I'm assuming, goes over to support Sam. And Tara, the younger, talks with Kirby and goes over Kirby's past. So she gets a plan, Kirby does, and they say that they want to trace the killer's call, and Mindy is already in doubt of this because she even explicitly says when they try to do this in other movies, it typically fails. But remember what the rule stated, expect the opposite, so it actually works. So again, the meta refers to its own movie of setup and payoff, which, my god, jeez, what a just brilliant, absolutely brilliant in terms of just catching yourself and just being we're gonna subvert the subversion again on you. But so they do learn, in fact, that the killer is moving towards Gail's current location, because Gail is told to buzz off or whatever it was. And they were using Sam and Tara as public bait to get this info out of Gail being the next target. So Gail finally gets her Scream call, and Scream just outright says that, essentially, to her. It's like, hey, I never called you specifically, so I'm pretty sure you were never expecting this. So he shoves the now dead boyfriend of Gail's out dead to rights, and Gail proceeds to hide in one of her rooms to grab a gun and shoots twice. The phone in her room rings and she holds the phone up to her while also shooting out twice more just in case. So she quite cleverly puts her the Scream killer on call and calls the number that just called her so that she knows where the call is coming from and shoots in that location. However, she aims a little off because the door is like blocking him, or that killer, I'm going to say again, rather, as she is tackled and stabbed a little bit here and injured quite sufficiently. But Sam and Tara arrive just in the nick of time, and again, subverting the subversions. We were told that legacy characters, in reference to 5, were, again, it was a joke against 5, but we were told that legacy characters here were also at risk. So again, it subverts the subversion and keeps Gail alive here. But just barely. Sam, after this little bit, wants to give herself up, and her little quadrant of group of, I guess, the core 4 is what they refer, as the guy refers to their group as. It's like, we need to stick through this. So they call the cop to say that they're going to lure out Ghostface back to the lair, and the group proceeds to head into the public train, which is the trailer, which is again a part of the trailer. Every person who's seen the trailer has seen this, where they see Mindy being separated from the rest of the group. Like, the train is so busy that like they get separated physically because the people are pushing and shoving their way in. So Mindy sees the Scream figure get closer, and she is stabbed yet again. And after getting stabbed in the chest but still living, she says, "Fuck this franchise." But she lives! Again, and I'll get to that towards the end of why I keep pointing that out, but So Sam, meanwhile, leaves her boyfriend behind, while the rest head towards the theater shrine. And she gets another vision from her killer father, who warns her to pick up a weapon and make sure this area is clear, and notices that Kirby is suddenly and abruptly gone from the scenario, and the cop updates her around the same time, warning her that Kirby is the killer, saying that how she was fired and how she went nuts. So Tara, we see hanging out with her boyfriend. They get attacked as well, and they almost swear that the boyfriend gets killed here, but again, another close call, as we'll later find out in the movie, but for now they assume he's dead. And they see that there are 2 killers. At this point. So Kirby and the cop both arrive pretty much at the same time, so the sisters aren't sure which one it is. However, the cop proceeds to kill Kirby, one of the quote-unquote legacy characters. I think Kirby was just in the previous movie. I'm not sure what her other installment was. If not that, I could be misremembering, so if anybody knows, just let me know in the comments, because I'm not sure what... Because they obviously recognize her, so I'm kind of curious if she's just in 5 or if she was in one of the other movies. Anyway, because I haven't seen the previous Scream movies in such a long time, I don't remember. Anyway, so we see the cop let the two Scream killers go, unveiling that he's also a part of the trio of killers. And remember the rule they explicitly said at the beginning, everything must be bigger. So now there are clearly 3 killers here, including the cop, which is the subversion of who the killer is among the who they thought was dead at the time, the red-headed girl, his name escapes me, and the Ethan character, who was a part of their group, I guess, at a point. Very briefly, the new guy, I think, is the one that they're referring to here. It's completely irrelevant. So it's essentially family versus family is the point that they're trying to point out here. The cop talks about how it was his son. His son was the previous killer in 5, so now he's going after her specifically, and brought his other 2 children along to be the 2 other Scream killers. And we see a brief moment. I forget where, because like Mindy's like catching up at certain points here. So she talks about, and again, this is again another one of those punches about how easy it is for a movie to kill one of its character, and I put that in quotes because obviously she's referring to, again, some of the other movies that they're clearly mentioning, from Star Wars to again, I don't know why, but that one specifically just really sticks out to me, because it's guilty of like everything this movie is like calling out, in the most literal sense of all of it being just egregious. Anyway, so Tara, Sam being the older and more cunning of the 2 siblings, starts to mock the cop about the son being an insufficient killer, being or a man as well. Just really just trying to get anything to rile the trio up. However, Kirby gets back up, because I lied, because she's also not dead. I got you, didn't I? No. I mean, come on. You guys probably knew that, because I've been kind of alluding to other characters living, and shoots one of them, or at one of them, I should say, rather. But Tara stabs one of them in the mouth. Sam proceeds to deal with the daughter and shoots her in the head. Headshot. She's dead. The redhead is dead. But that was her. She was out of bullets. As she clicks at aiming at the father. So the 2 of them clash and fall, because they're like on a balcony, so they clash downward. but she manages to scurry away, and she gives him a call from a distance. And as he awakens, she flips the script on him, as she is now the one calling and saying, "What's your favorite scary movie?" Which is a direct, thing from the first movie, and pretty much every other iteration as well. And kind of poking at him, saying, "Isn't this exactly what you wanted? You wanted to pin me as the killer, so isn't this exactly what you wanted?" So she comes out, now wearing the entire Scream uniform, and killing him in the process by stabbing him over and over again. We see that the younger killer, the younger bro sibling, is still alive somehow after being stabbed in the mouth, but Kirby kills him. And then Kirby says something that just absolutely, I think this is the line that I hope everyone who's like a movie person who's writing their franchises outside of this one hears this line. Being a legacy character doesn't mean you always have to be bad. Fucking finally says it. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we also see that Chad is also alive. Kirby is alive. Gale is alive. The Quad Squad is alive. A lot of the characters live in this movie. In fact, I would probably argue that Scream 6 might have the lowest kill count, ? Again, it's been a long time since I've seen the previous Scream movies, so I'm not entirely sure about that one. But I'm willing to almost kind of feel that one out, and if there are any Scream professionals out there, let me know if Scream 6 is the one with the lowest kill count. That very well might be true. I don't know, again. But Sam drops the mask as the two sister siblings walk off into the distance, and that was Scream 6. And by God, was that... I'm just gonna say it, I think this is the best Scream movie so far. I really do think so. I think that this one absolutely breaks the meta till it just punches with the rules, with the subversions of who dies and who lives, being able to mock itself, being able to mock other movies. It's definitely not only a return to form, but a continuation from the previous movie, which is exactly what a sequel should set out to do. It should be a continuation from its predecessor. Scream 6 is a direct predecessor to Scream 5. And it clearly isn't afraid to go after its predecessor in the meta sense. My God, is Scream 6 just absolutely genius, which is exactly why it feels like it hasn't happened in a while, but for now, since I can't think of any flaws I find with this movie, at least off the top of my head, I'm trying to think, I'm struggling, so I'm gonna push currently for a 10 out of 10. I think, again, even if it's not a 10 out of 10, if I can find a minor inconvenience, then probably I would only push it to a 9, but geez, is that still really, really strong, if not the case. This is an absolute must-see, especially if you have seen previous Scream movies, especially if you're someone who's well-versed in the meta, sort of material. I think this absolutely nails it. And again, I find it almost funny in a way that a lot of the characters live in this. I find that sort of the subversion of the subversion, as I'm alluded to quite a few times throughout this. So, absolutely just again, just top notch. I think this Scream 6 is just wow. What a way to come back from Scream 5. Just absolutely taking what you had and just absolutely just going like, we need to tackle this. We need to actually look at what we did and be able to say, point at ourselves and say, this is where we fucked up, and here we are. Surprise, you know. So that's my full review of Scream 6. This is an absolute recommend from me for now. Absolutely enjoyed it. So if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me in the channel. And fourth to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, and chill your own content for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!